Can you see right, Rosmir?
We can see it, Miguel. Go ahead.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. It's my real privilege to be part of this first webinars in partnership and collaboration with the IFC. My name is Miguel Angel Figueroa. I am the specialist on investments on the UNWTO. And it's really amazing to see that we received more than 650 applications from about 125 countries. So we are really excited about this. And also, we are fortunate that we have with us Mr. Manuel Butler, which is our executive director at the UNWTO, and as well Rosmir Musik from IFC. So I will just start really fast while people are still going in, just to give you some suggestions on the technical of the webinar, and I will go ahead. And just for you to know, we are going to record this webinar and we will try to send as soon as we finish. And as well, they will be broadcasting through our YouTube channels. And all the materials will be shared as well through the emails that you share with us. And we highly recommend that you can use the Q&A feature to ask the questions so we can pass through the speakers. And finally, we will be sharing as well a survey just to improve our interventions for the next sessions. Just to move on, what are we going to cover today? A very fast introduction of the webinars, the salutation from the UNWTO and IFC, the presentation in charge of Mrs. Natalia Bayona, and the next steps. Okay, so just to jump in, the introduction, why are we doing this? As you all know, we are going through a very complicated time in which we are developing different strategies from the UNWTO as well from different other organizations, and we are trying to create value, trying to create sustainable value. And in order to do that, we are partnering with different stakeholders, including, of course, the government, the state members that we work with, the financial institutions like IFC, and organizations like the UNWTO, which provide some guidance and also some insights in regard the tourism industry. And we also are looking forward to work with you, the participants who are involved with this aggregation of the hospitality sector, in order to create value for the sector down the road. The main value proposition that we are trying to achieve from this series of webinars is to try to identify which are the main stakeholders in this aggregation of the hospitality, talking about hotel investors, hotel developers, the hotel owners and managers, to see what are the needs, what they are lacking, how can we help in order to develop the best initiatives based on your needs and based on the market. And based on that, we will try to develop some guidelines that the IFC as well, the UNWTO are developing or we already have on place. And hopefully, based on all this information and your participation, we are trying to develop different financial instruments that are already on place in some cases, that and in other cases we will see what can we do together. For that purpose, we are organizing this series of seminars that we are going to touch some of these points in the next sessions. So that's kind of like the big picture of what we are trying to do. All this information will be sending it to you. And now I will just pass the baton to Mr. Butler, who is the Executive Director at UNWTO, and he will be giving some salutations.
Thank you very much, Miguel Angel. A good afternoon or good morning, dear friends, dear colleagues, and dear Rasmir Music, to be here with us, working alongside with the IFC, the largest global development institution on the private sector and in developing countries, and the EDGE experts is more than needed. It's a must. For us, the UNWTO is a great honor. The current COVID-19 pandemic crisis makes very difficult to combine the focus on immediate short-term measures and the focus on business transformation and long-term shareholder value. How do we address the intermediate health and economic impacts of the pandemic while staying on course to achieve the long-term objectives of the 2030 agenda? That is the question. We know oil prices are remaining historical low, that lower earnings may jeopardize business readiness to invest in more sustainable and climate resilient operations. There is always the temptation to not include Paris Agreement requirements in the recovery programs to ease economic activity and to protect strategic industries and jobs. That is opting for a brown recovery. So, to promote green investment for a long term, the recovery of the tourism industry is something that we have to call in these difficult times. The climate crisis is not only an environmental threat that harms livelihoods and health, particularly in developing countries, but it's also a tremendous business opportunity. And tourism is a clear opportunity. It is one of the fastest growing industry worldwide, over 4% yearly accumulative growth. And at the same time, it's one of the hardest hit by the current crisis. That's mean mobilizing huge resources in the coming years. Investing in sustainable hotel buildings means investing alongside of the supply chain, especially in the local farm industry, and unique as a catalyst for educating tourists by delivering personal and unique experiences. That's why since 2019, we are working together with the Mallorca Hotel Cluster to accelerate the implementation of the circular economy in the lodge industry. One of the clear lessons that to be learned from the pandemic is the importance of the resilient planning. Another is the need to work on the basis of the network logic. Working jointly, both institutions, IFC and UNWTO, is a good example in the right direction. We need to seize the momentum for a bigger picture analysis of the measures and steps taken during the crisis, which will serve as foundation for defining a more resilient, sustainable tourist sector. I thank again IFCA for its commitment and support to delivering this joint initiative, and especially to the IDT team of the UNWTO, Natalia's team, for making feasible this accurate initiative. I am completely sure it will be a complete success. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Butler. Rusmir, do you want to give some words, please?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So again, my name is Rusmir Music, and I'm the Business Development Lead for IFC's EDGE Green Buildings Market Transformation Program. IFC is the private sector arm of the World Bank Group, and we have a comprehensive green buildings program focused on investment through both developers, financial institutions, and working with governments, all bundled around our EDGE certification program. It is quite a pleasure to be here with you today, and you will hear from me more in subsequent webinars. My aim is to show you with practical case studies how IFC's partners around the globe have been already able to access green finance flows. We will share the business case for sustainability in the hotel industry, largely focused on utility cost reduction to resource efficiency. We will show you how both national and local governments have already incentivized green buildings. So for all the public sector colleagues on the call, we hope to work with you and implement this in your countries or your municipalities. For both private and public sector, you will see the costs are not high, but the benefits are great. And you will see real examples where sustainability has paid off for governments, for investors, for developers, for hotel owners, and for consultants. So please join us for the following weeks for a breakdown of each of these pieces, and I look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you so much, Rosemary. Appreciate it. So just to move on with the agenda, I will introduce to the main speaker of today, Mrs. Natalia Bayona, who is the expert on innovation, digital transformation, and investments from the UNWTO. And she will be walking us through this first webinar just to give you the big picture. Natalia, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Miguel. Thank you, Manuel. Thank you, Rosemary. It's a pleasure to me be here today, and of course, to work with all the hotel sector that is hearing us in order to promote a more sustainable, innovative, and of course, inclusive tourism. So why we decided to develop this joint project with the IFC? So as you know, one of the main challenges that we have inside the tourism sector is to develop sustainable green investments, and of course, to develop social impact investments. So during the past, we have been working actively with venture capital in order to make this happen with entrepreneurs. But we decided today to launch this project with the IFC because we would like to move these vehicles, investment vehicles that the IFC can promote to the hotel sector, in this case, for making traditional investments more green and more sustainable. So I would like to begin my presentation by giving you a global overview about investments, where we are regarding investments. So in the next slide, what we can see is that tourism foreign direct investments globally has been increasing a lot. Only in 2014, the capital of investment was $11.1 million in terms of investments, but in 2018 we moved to $57,400 million. So it's a lot of increasement, but it's a lot of growth. But of course, during these challenging times, we have to lead by example, and we have to recover tourism, taking into account that sustainable investments and innovative investments are here to stay if we promote public-private partnerships. As you can see in the map, you can see something that is really clear. When you are talking about foreign direct investment and traditional investments in tourism, you can see that, for example, the US is leading the tourism investments. They had more than 130 projects, then Mexico, 73. You see Spain with 76, France with 78, Germany, 78, the UK, 145, China, 91. I don't know if this is coincidence or not, but those are the most important countries regarding tourism arrivals in the world. So as you can see, there's more gray in the map rather than blue. So our aim is to promote investments, of course, to maintain those top sustainable and green investments in those countries that are blue, but of course to spread the voice to the gray ones. So and on the next slide, we can see, this is very important, where we were before COVID-19. Tourism is one of the most human economic sectors. 1.5 billion people are traveling abroad in 2019, 4% growth, 10 consecutive years of growth. I can say that this is absolutely amazing because it's the only economic sector of the world that have been developed this. And this is very important. $1.7 trillion economic growth, that's about 4% of the world's GDP. So this is our moment. This was before COVID-19. As you know, our projections inside the UNWTO is that tourism will fail from 60% until 80%, but it would depend, of course, on the moment where 100% of the countries will open again. As you know, as of today, 100% of the countries are closed. So we need to work on investments, on recover, and to open the borders with responsibility, but of course to maintain and to support international investments. So as here we can see, 100 to 120 million jobs are at risk, 910 US billion to 1.2 trillion lost in exports, and of course 850 million to 1.1 billion international tourists less. So with this, we can conclude our situation today. On the next slide, we can see that, of course, as I already said, we have three scenarios regarding the coming back of the tourism sector. So if the whole world opens again in September, we will fail 58%. If we do it in a scenario 2, that is in September, we will fail 70%. But if we wait until December to open the whole world, our scenario will be that the tourism sector will fail 80% by this year. So to recover this is really tough. And that's why we need to help private sector and the tourism chain to recover with sustainable and green experts as the IFC. So what is the opportunity? Because of course this is challenging, and of course in times of pandemias, or in times where everything we feel that is negative, we have to look for opportunities. So here is the opportunity to grow to sustainability. UNWTO is collaborating with the IFC to provide technical training programs for the tourism industry in order to promote green finance, to stimulate tourism recovery and ensure the development of a competitive and sustainable economic growth. I have to say that this is the first time of the history of the UNWTO that we are partnering with the IFC regarding tourism. This won't be, Rosmir, the first time. Of course, this is the first, but not the last one. And we are really planning to help, because we need to spread the voice on the private sector and, of course, with the governments in order to make more green investments happen. So how? On the next slide, we can see that, of course, this has to match with the 2030 agenda. We have to work on more sustainable investments. I don't know if you know, but the opportunity, we have $2.5 trillion that are needed annually to achieve the sustainable development goals. So that's why we need the private sector to make that these 17 goals are achieved by 2030. So let's go into our objectives of this program. The first objective is to identify, of course, aggregators across the hotel chain, value chain, in order to promote and implement sustainability measures. Second of all, provide skills, training on green investments to adopt those skills on your daily basis. So I give you an example. If you're trying to recover a hotel today, if you're bringing, or if you want to create a new solar panels or new ways to give energy to the hotels, etc., or to develop sustainable gardens, or to include the social community here, this is the time to be aligned with the global parameters that the IFC has developed in order to achieve sustainable investments. And the third objective, of course, is to facilitate sustainable investment mechanism to access green finance opportunities. Remember that the UN system works as doors openers. The UNWTO and the IFC are working here today to open to the private sector some doors and to help you to gain either loans or either investments, but of course that are aligned with our international policies. So the program components, green investments training, of course, the green investment certifications and the green investment mechanisms. So basically here, it's for promoters, aggregators, and of course to access to finance. And on the next slide, of course, we can see, for example, that here it's our strategic pyramid or the structure of the program. So of course, this is made for the governmental authorities, so to the hospitality investors and C-level executives, to the project managers and consultants, because what we want is to go from the strategy to the tactical or to the pragmatical thinking, and of course then to go to the operational roles and to develop these under the core business of each hotel. Then, this is very interesting. On the next slide, we can see how this is a 360 model. So of course, today, it's a tourism investments overview that we are giving today, but every single week, we are developing these spectacular webinars with some experts that can help you. In the second path, we will work about access to green finance mechanisms and to talk about sustainable hotels. On the third path, or on the third session, we would talk about government green incentives, so case studies. Then on the fourth, we would talk about green investment strategies, how to boost profitability. And the last one that is amazing is to talk with the edge experts, as Rasmir already said, in order to have the certificate or the accreditation for all the hotels that have been working with us today. So here, it's a little bit more friendly today. So here, as I already said, today is like the kickoff of this project by a webinar. Our focus was to bring, of course, tourism, hotel associations, private sector, governmental authorities, but then we will have 4 personalized sessions focused, of course, on investments. And we would like to really commit all the private sector to work together with us, because we want better hotels under this new normal, or the new normality that we are having today. So if we go next to our next slide, basically, as I already said, I am not going to repeat this, but the most we work regarding trainings, forums, online, self-space, the most you are close to the digital skills, the most near you will be to add value to your business. So here we will have on the next presentation, on the next slide, sorry, some bullet points regarding green investments mechanisms. So as you know, private equity investments and real estate investments are crucial today. We need more of them, but of course we need to rethink our tourism model. Remember what happened in Europe that today, I'm happy to be here in Madrid, but of course, remember what happened in the big cities before the pandemic. All the citizens were not happy bringing tourists, because massive tourism was hurting a lot the environment. That's why we need to, this is the perfect moment to rethink the way we are developing tourism. And that's why we need to include during these private equity investments or real estate investments that are the traditional but most impactful investments in tourism, how they can help to develop more smart buildings, the use of technology to be more inclusive, more efficient, the use of renewable energies to avoid our climate change challenges, and of course to bring the most safe, but of course clear and good experience to the tourist, because of course the new tourist is going to be not only more aware, but also more exigent on the way they see that they need to, or how they can be in a place or in another. So this is the time to choose if we want the traditional model with no innovation, with no sustainability, or if we want to take innovation and sustainability into the new normal and to bring these as the core business of the company. So here, the stakeholder mapping, you know better than me how this works. So of course, this is the map when we are talking about hotel investments, we have the hotel brands, we have the hotel management companies, we have when people want to franchise hotels, we have the real estate investments groups, we have the holding companies, we have the operators. This is not new for you. You are more experts than me because you come from the hotel sector. So this is only to tell you that our aim is to bring together all the community or the whole hotel ecosystem here. So just to end here, was basically we would like to boost profit margins through utility savings. We want to help you to increase the revenue. We want, as Rizmir told, we want to prove some future investment strategies. We would like to increase value, and through certification, we want to ensure a long-term energy supply. And of course, we want to safeguard against regulatory risks and benefits from incentives. So we are going to the end. On the last slide, you can see, of course, once again, what I already told you. This program will help to advise you on green investments and sustainability, will help you in the mid-future, of course, to gain sustainable investments when you have all these certificates. And of course, it's a new way to create new markets, because of course, it's a new way for you to have new type of clients. So here, I think we are going to the last slide. Here we go with Mr. Rasmir. This is the next. I would like really, I'm really committed and excited on this project. So I would like to welcome Rasmir once again on June 11, because he would be the one that would lead and that would have the floor to talk about access to green finance mechanisms. Today was only the kickoff. We are really interested in having all of you here today. And of course, once again, count with the UNWTO, count with IFC, and of course, count with the EDGE experts to make tourism more sustainable, more innovative, more inclusive, and of course, a sector that is leading by example, that is rethinking the way it was promoting in the past. But of course, I am really positive that sooner than later, we can promote and we can have successful cases on hotel investments. So thank you so much. And now I think we will be open. We will come back with Miguel, because I think we have 10 or 15 minutes of Q&A. So we will be more than happy to answer the questions. And once again, thanks a lot for being with us today.
Thank you so much, Natalia. That was really a condensed presentation of the big picture of what we are looking for. And just to emphasize and reinforce what Natalia was saying, for us, it's very important to have such a big audience. In this case, we received almost 700 applications, and it was a very targeted audience. So we are really happy about that. Also, we received applications for almost 125 countries, if I'm right. So that is really impressive for us. And what I was surprised is that it was a very well-targeted audience that we are trying to focus on. That's why what Natalia was saying is very important. And as Rusmi was saying at the beginning, for us is very important to show the practical side of it, because we want to show you case studies, not just for the aggregators that will be part of the program, but also what the government can do in order to create incentives, and how can we partner together in order to do this better. So maybe before to go to the questions, Rusmi, do you want to add something to this?
Yes, I think I saw one of the questions was, is this only for hotel owners? And the answer is absolutely not. I think we have a answer for everyone. So from IFC's side and from our Green Buildings program, our expertise is not on how to safely reopen a hotel. So that would not be what we're going to talk about. The real focus is going to be how to reopen better. You know, the whole idea of, as Natalia says, if you're returning to our normal, do we now have an opportunity to make a better normal, a better way for the hotels, whether existing or new hotels? You know, the pandemic is kind of unprecedented opportunity to really look inwards and see what can be improved. And so you're going to see a series of webinars, and you have that in the calendar. So next week, we're talking very much around financing mechanisms. I think this would be great for hotel owners, but also for investors. We want to show how IFC's clients have utilized mechanisms such as green bonds, green loans, attracting institutional investors to do some work around green buildings. The following week, we're going to talk about how governments have incentivized green buildings. And again, we can have some more very specific examples for hotels. So there will be a more government targeted process. And then the third webinar that I'm offering is a walkthrough technical overview of the Edge software. So this is our free tool that IFC has developed. You can even access it today from edgebuildings.com and start practicing. And so this is a great resource for hotel owners and operators, investors who are curious how Edge works, and also consultants in this space, as well as any government officials who are a little bit more on the technical side. So there's going to be sort of different pieces targeted to slightly different audiences, but you'll see again, IFC's understanding in this market is that we have to approach all stakeholders at the same time. It is not enough to work with just one. We have to have a comprehensive approach. And that's why we have a series of webinars with slightly different messages around the sustainability portion.
Thank you, Rusmir. I'm reading to the questions right now, and they are very similar questions that you were addressing. And there's one from Moreira. It says, is these financial mechanisms are just for new and old hotels? And I would say it depends. Because we are trying to focus on the investment readiness. So we are trying to see where the aggregators are in order to see what are the needs and what are the standards that they are complying in the industry. And that's why we are trying to offer certain skills and certain capacity building to the aggregators, so they will actually raise the bars, and we will see how can we help. And of course, the IFC are the experts on that. So that's one question. And another similar to that is that if there are also, I mean, if this program is extended to the apartments and also housing projects as well. I don't know, Rusmir.
You can. So one of our you know, the skills learned today for the hotel industry can be applied to any building. So if you're a developer working across the space, it's quite possible. And what I will do is I will illustrate the case studies from other sectors as well. As I think there've been some great successes. One of our what we call Edge champions. So these are institutions that have committed to certifying their properties across the world is ESCOT. And they do serviced apartments. So it's actually a category that we have in Edge. We also have seen great success in student housing. So one of the case studies you'll hear is in Kenya, where Acorn launched student housing as it was the first green bond in Kenya. And we'll also show you studies on incremental costs that we've done specifically for housing itself, so for residential spaces, everywhere from low income to high income housing. So IFC does have a comprehensive offer across the board, you know, when it comes to the building industry. Obviously, we're going to focus more on the hotels, but those lessons learned are applicable to other parts of buildings as well.
Perfect. There's another question, maybe for Natalia from Manuela. It says, what are you guys doing regarding training governments on investment promotion agencies?
Perfect. That's a very nice question. As you know, the UNWTO investment strategy is divided in two. The first commitment when we began 2 years ago was about fostering innovation investments. So working with the venture capitals, with the private equity firms, of course, and family offices, and corporate ventures in order to help entrepreneurship to grow. Nowadays, we created the second path that is focused on foreign direct investments. What we have done during this year, we have been developing some guidelines with the Financial Times regarding foreign direct investments. We are working actively to develop the next guidelines this year. We thank to one of our colleagues, that is the Director of Institutional Relations, Soritza. She presented us or introduced us to WIPA. So we have signed an MOU with WIPA in order to spread the voice to the government investment agencies in order to help them to spread the voice. And we are really focused in helping and in open, more than training. Our job is a little bit pragmatic. So what we have done is to help governments to open doors with private investors or vice versa. Two, when an investor, a private investor come to us, we open the floor, we open the doors in order to help them to have all the opportunities and of course all the information from the countries in order to have security on their investments. I give you an example. We're working with Qatar Airways in order to develop the multi-billionaire project in Rwanda to create the new Rwanda airport. Second of all, on Monday, we are going to launch a 700 million investment in Cabo Verde with, of course, with a Spanish a private equity investor on sustainable and digital cities. And in August, I am really excited to tell you, but we are going to launch a 1 billion investment in tourism in Colombia. So what we do is we open the doors. We help, of course, the ministers to add value to their investments. Of course, we can train you if you want. That would be possible if the governments tell us to train you. But more than training the governments, what I feel is that we have to work closer together. So, of course, I don't know where are you from, but if you're interested in training, of course, you can send us an email to idt@unwto.org, and we can find a way with our regional departments to see if we can develop a specific train for that government focused on how to develop strategic investments.
Thank you, Natalia. There are very similar questions that you were addressing as you were speaking. One of them, just to be faithful what they are writing, it says, how can the private sector can join the UNWTO to work and coordinate directly with for this endeavor? So you already kind of touched that. And one question maybe for Rusmir is, it says here, are those specifications a must in order to be a certified kind of hotel, or it could be a process that they need to be, go through if they are working with you guys?
That's a great question. For us to be certified with the EDGE standard, you have to reach 20% resource efficiency. But the EDGE software can be used for free for a self-assessment to give you a sort of a decision-making tool to understand maybe you can, incrementally get there. Perhaps today you can change your light bulbs, tomorrow maybe you change your HVAC, and then day after tomorrow you can put solar panels in. So what we're going to show you sort of is a decision-making tool with lots of different choices of how to get there. The important part and what differentiates EDGE is that we have a return on investment calculator. So EDGE isn't just about sustainability, kind of from a broad perspective. It's about what is my incremental cost? How much is it going to cost me extra per every single measure that I want to do? And then paired with that is how fast will I be able to recover my investment? It is true for both new hotels and for existing hotels. You will have a way to understand for every single measure that you do, what is the incremental cost? How quickly can you pay it back? And then what we want to do with our banking partners is to help finance that. So whether, again, it's a refurbishment process, which may be a little bit smaller, or if it's a new hotel, how do we launch different financing mechanisms that are tied to this piece? So that will be the focus of next webinar. And then in 3 weeks, we will talk much more about the decision-making process using Edge itself.
Thank you, Rusmir. And there's a lot of questions regarding, of course, finance, which is very important for all of us. Given, for instance, that your experience, the green finance is relatively new, the last decade, and is fairly small compared with the massive capital out there. Do you think there is a huge opportunity now, like in this crisis especially, and for the governments as well, for the private sector to develop different projects focused on sustainable tourism? Or what do you think we should go from here?
100%. This is something that IFC has been involved in. IFC itself has done $5.5 billion in green buildings. And now after the Paris Agreement, there are trillions of dollars of money that has been committed for green finance. They're just looking for partners. So one of the things that we bring in through Edge is a way to kind of make a quality green project that's certified, that when the investors come in, it's an easier way to do. I will show with you, we can share some links even afterwards. We did a great webinar with the Climate Bonds Initiative. They work on green bonds. So one of the examples in warehousing is that IFC enabled an $800 million investment program for warehouses in Romania. And one of the ways that we did that is through the Edge label. So the investors are looking for a label that brings them together on kind of investment platform. We have done something similar in Colombia for housing for $400 million investment program. So we have a lot of kind of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars that have been able to be deployed. And there's many, many more, trillions of dollars that are looking to be deployed in that way. And we think maybe some of these new mechanisms, such as green bonds and green loans, are exactly the way to go there.
Thank you. Thank you so much. There is a really, really interesting question from our friends from, sorry, I'm reading, there's so many questions here, from Rogelio. It says, hotels and the tourism sector in general are under a lot of distress at the moment. And it says, is this a realistic option to consider green initiatives in this context? Does a meaningful broad-based investment strategy is required from the public sector in order to incentivize to the private sector that will follow? So in other words, given the stress and the context that we are going through, is that a priority for the sector to invest time and in these kind of green initiatives? And then what can the governments do in order for the private sector to follow? I would like to address that just to give you a big picture. I think it's very important, if you allow me to, because especially in this moment of opportunity, of course, in the short term, we need to work in the liquidity for the business, but in the long run, I think these initiatives such as green investments and all the certification and the standards and all these capacities are very important to move forward and to see and accelerate the transitions towards a green investment. So I don't know, in your experience, have you seen kind of like the impact, not just in the long run, but in the short term, especially when they are saving money with efficiency measures, for instance? Can you give us some case studies on that?
Yes, and so the examples that you're going to see are from the paper that we published with International Tourism Partnership. That is a CEO level organization that covers, I believe, almost 50% of the hotel space. It's all of the large hotels in the world, Marriott, Hilton, they've all come together. So that paper which I think you have been sharing through the announcement, has many, many case studies of both hotels that have undergone retrofits, as well as new hotels who maybe change their design a little bit to meet certification standards. For some of the new hotels, we saw that at no incremental cost, they were able to achieve, the example in Mexico was $87,000 a year in utility savings. And there are many other examples of existing hotels that have gone through retrofits and saved incredible amounts of money on utility costs. So what we're, if you think of your profit as revenue minus cost, we think that we can help you on the revenue side through differentiation. This is where branding will be important. So as tourists are looking to return to places, there may be fewer of them. They're going to be a little bit more picky, choosy, right? And there's so much information that shows that tourists much more now are looking for green hotels to stay in. So that's on the revenue side. And on the cost side are two pieces. It's the cost of operations. This is where sustainability comes in really handy. What has stopped it before is people thought it was too expensive, that they did not want to put in green measures because they thought that the incremental cost is too high. Again, we will show you through case studies and through the EDGE tool that the cost isn't that high. And the second part is the cost of financing. And we do see that through green mechanisms, because there's so much interest from the investors, many of our partners who have launched initiatives such as green bonds have actually been able to access cheaper financing than they usually would be, because there's much more kind of money looking to come their way. So revenue and costs are both there, and I think we can definitely work on that together. From the public sector side, there can be fiscal incentives, and again, IFC has done a mapping of these. Anything from a central bank incentive for cheaper financing to non-fiscal incentives, or faster permitting and others as well. So we will share some ideas of how the government can incentivize it, dangle that carrot and make sure that the process is faster on both fiscal and non-fiscal side. So again, I don't think IFC has all the answers. It's not, but we have many answers that have come through our partners. And that's what we love to do is share that story with you, have some ideas, and then see what we can do that's specific, to your country, to your environment as well.
Yeah, maybe Natalia can give a little bit more into that detail, because some people are asking another question here. Are we going to cover some initiatives regarding circular economy in the hotel tourist industry in this program?
Of course. Mr. Butler is one of the main committed on circular economy. So we were thinking to spread the voice on the chapter 4 to include circular economy. On the other hand, I have some good news for you that, of course, if innovation and sustainability has to be our new normal, we have to be really proactive on the things that we are doing. So by mid-July, we will launch the first Sustainable Development Goals startup competition, with the aim of bringing top innovators from all around the world, the startups that are working on a Series A or from an early stage perspective, to bring solutions that can help tourism recovery, but of course focused on our 17 Sustainable Development Goals. So as you know, thanks to our startup competitions, we match investors with entrepreneurs. The last year, we helped to raise 45 million euros only with the finalists of these calls. So of course, we need to spread the voice in all the sectors, not only on hotels. So that's why by mid-July, we would be delighted to launch this for the first time, to join efforts between entrepreneurs, private sector, and of course, institutions and governments to promote a more sustainable tourism.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I know our time is running out. And just to close up, we also want to tell you from the UNWTO, we are promoting the different forums of investments and as well. and we are looking forward to work regionally as well globally. And that's why we are trying to partner with the best partners out there, like the IFC, in order to achieve this goal. I just want to close also and thanking you all for your time. Rusmir, Mr. Butler, Natalia, I know you are super busy, and I don't know, you want to say something else to just close the session?
So I will start.
Yes, go for it.
By saying that, of course, the responsibility of recovering tourism or on restarting tourism is from all of us, you know. So the more proactive we are, the more team building we do, the better will be for our sector. So count on the UNWTO, count on us. And of course, I would like to give the floor to Manuel, that is really committed with this program. And lucky as Manuel today, people are asking about circular economy. So that's very nice to know that hotels, developers, and investors that are coming today, and the governments are interested on developing something special on circular economy investments. So thank you.
Thank you, Natalia. Mr. Butler, you want to say?
Not so much to add. Yeah, it was very good explained by Natalia, and thank you again to Rasmir Music and the IFCC. Only highlighting that I am a very fighter, not only for circular economy, but thinking that the main driver in this decade, prior, I was saying always prior to the COVID crisis, that the main driver for the tourism is the sustainability. Sustainability jointly with digitalization, yeah, of course. But sustainability is the main driver to evolve, to transform the tourist sector, and the opportunity to invest in sustainability in the tourism is enormous. Yeah? Talking about circular economy, is bringing as a catalyst all these things, putting together, yeah, and to provide them and step forward to the big challenge that we have, the planet Earth. That's the climate crisis. That's why we have started to work last year jointly with the Spanish hoteliers, the big chains of Spanish hoteliers, about measuring, about defining KPIs about the circular economy. There is so much research on this issue, and we have to come forward, and the possibilities to multiply our actions through the circular economy, they are tremendous, and it's rewarding in the long term. To be competitive, you have to be sustainable. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Just last announcement, of course, next Thursday, like today, we are going to have Rusmir at 2 p.m. Madrid time. And to all the people that already registered, we will be sending you an agenda and an invitation, so you will have it already in your schedule. Rusmir, thank you so much for your time. And I don't know if you want to give some last words.
No worries for me. I think folks will hear from me quite in the next 3 weeks, so all good.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody. We really appreciate your time. We are looking forward to work together with you. We're going to send the recording after this ends, and also we are going to be sending you a survey and future more information about the presentation because a lot of people asked for that as well. Thank you so much, and we are going to see you next week. Have a good weekend. Bye.